WBUR Podcast, Boston.
This is Up Next. I'm Tiziana Deering. The race for control of the U.S. Senate is heating up, and 3 contestants here in New England could help determine the chamber's future. Joining us to size up those races, WBUR senior political reporter Anthony Brooks and James Pindell, associate editor for the Boston Globe. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Anthony, we'll start with you, and we'll start in Maine with Graham Plattner, who's a Democrat and has been in the news this week. He's trying to unseat longtime Republican Senator Susan Collins. He's weighed down by some scandals in his past, including reports this past weekend that he exchanged sexually charged messages with several women while married. Here's what Plattner said about those reports.
It's no surprise to me that the establishment media outlets are just going to run gossip instead of wanting to talk about the things that actually matter in this race.
Will this matter in the race, Anthony?
Well, it's certainly not going to help him, but at the same time, it's not going to knock him out of the race. I mean, Plattner remains very popular among progressives and many Democrats in Maine. And I was up in Maine just last week, and when you talk to his supporters, most of them will tell you that they've already made peace with the fact that he has this bumpy past, and that it's part of his narrative, that he served multiple combat tours, came back home, was lost, did and said things that he wasn't proud of, but then did the work and is a different person now. The problem is, though, it's the drip, drip, drip nature of this. I think if the sexting scandal was it, he recovers and moves on. But I spoke to Bill Curry. He's a veteran Democrat from Connecticut who advised President Bill Clinton, who survived some sexual scandals of his own. And Curry stopped short of saying Plattner should get out of the race, but he said this.
Graham Plattner has to get before the cameras and assure the voters of Maine that there are no more revelations coming. And if there are, then I think there's a real problem. I'm not judging the man, only the risk.
So, Tiziana, I think Democrats, even some of his supporters, remain nervous about are there more scandals to come? And if so, that's not going to help in a state that Democrats really feel they should win. And, it's worth noting that just about any scenario for them to retake the Senate runs through Maine. So there's a lot riding on this race.
So, James Pindell, is Susan Collins vulnerable? She's a longtime Republican senator from Maine with a long track record of electoral success. Plattner puts out a poll from his campaign that's got him up 4 points, but that's a smaller margin than earlier polls have shown. What's your take?
To answer both questions, number one, yeah, of course she's vulnerable. She's the only Republican senator who is representing a state that Kamala Harris won, and she won by 7 points. Republicans haven't won statewide in Maine in the presidential race since 1988. So yeah, this is a thing. There's no question about it. And obviously, the also thing is during that time, Susan Collins keeps getting reelected again and again and again, and including when polls showed that she was going to lose 6 years ago, and she pulled it off anyway. The reason you saw that poll from Plattner is that they are in massive damage control mode from that revelation about the sexting last weekend. This is hitting different. The campaign is acting much different. They are doing all they can to try to tamp this down. What's different about this in particular is that when people are talking about how he went through a lot, he had PTSD, he's coming back from war, he's a changed person. These texts were last year. This is not the Reddit posts of over a decade ago. And rumors are flying that more stories are coming. The Wall Street Journal wrote about that last night. And so people are bracing for what's going to happen. And the twist here is that Maine's primary is actually on Tuesday. Janet Mills, who he was running against, the governor, who suspended her campaign because she was broke, she's still on the ballot. And in fact, she reminded people of that just a few days ago.
So the Wall Street Journal, in an article with unnamed sources citing more concerns that there is more coming yesterday. Anthony, I want to turn to New Hampshire for a minute. There's a Senate race there for an open seat because Jeanne Shaheen, the Democrat, is not running. You've got congresspeople from Massachusetts, New Hampshire in that race. Scott Brown, who was actually a Republican senator from Massachusetts, running in the Republican primary there. Tell us more about the players and what to watch for.
Right. Well, in New Hampshire, a lot less drama than in Maine, but it could also prove hugely consequential. So as you mentioned, Jeanne Shaheen retiring. The favored Democrat is Congressman Chris Pappas. He's expected to win the Democratic nomination. On the Republican side, it's John Sununu who's got the edge. He's battling it out with Scott Brown. Sununu is well ahead in the race. He's a former senator who was defeated by Shaheen. He wants his old job back. And right now, I guess you'd have to say Pappas has the advantage given that New Hampshire trends blue. And in an election year when Trump is hugely unpopular in a state that supported Kamala Harris, you'd have to give him the advantage. But still, many months to go. But I'd say Sununu has an uphill climb here, assuming that he gets the Republican nomination, which it looks like he's going to get.
And James Bindle, we can't forget Massachusetts, where on the Democratic side, Congressman Seth Moulton is challenging sitting Senator Ed Markey. Moulton's camp wants to make this about race straight up. Here is part of an ad from a Moulton allied super PAC out this week featuring Michael Connolly, who served alongside Markey in the State House in the 70s.
Ed's a friend. But it's time to move on. People shouldn't stay in Washington too long. It's bad for your health.
Markey doesn't get the endorsement from the state party. Moulton doesn't. Markey does. But is Moulton making inroads?
I mean, you're right. Moulton has been trying to make this about age entirely. The thing is, he's been running for months and months and months. And there's people who largely accept the premise but don't like Moulton. And polls have been pretty clear about it. Look, the big money in this race has not been spent, but it is very telling that Markey has been basically running for re-election without really running for re-election, doesn't want anyone to notice, and he's getting away with it.
Anthony, more than 70% of the vote at the convention went to Ed Markey. The primary is September 1st. If you had to guess now, and listen, we all know this week it proves that lots can happen, right? Is this feeling like it will be a close primary on the Democratic side or a Markey landslide?
I don't know, and I've really gotten out of the business of predicting for obvious reasons over the last 10 years. But look at the most recent Emerson College poll. Markey is up by 5 points with a lot of undecided voters. Compare that to several months ago when he had a double-digit lead. So yeah, the race is tightening. I think what's interesting about this race is when there's a lot of talk about generational change and the need for generational change, I'm not sure if that's landing in this race against Markey. Markey remains very popular with Massachusetts Democrats, particularly progressives. Moulton is trying to say he's too old. Not sure that's landing. Recall that Markey fought off a challenge from Joe Kennedy 6 years ago. So that said, this race appears to be tightening, but I wouldn't say it's tightening in a way that is making Markey look particularly vulnerable. But it will be interesting to watch.
And we will. We'll keep watching with both of you. WBUR senior political reporter Anthony Brooks and Boston Globe associate editor James Pindle. Thanks so much to both of you.
My pleasure.